News 25 Nightside.
Good evening. Efforts to resolve the differences between Caterpillar and the United Auto Workers have failed, and a strike is scheduled for tomorrow. But it appears to be beginning tonight in Mapleton. We hope to have a live report coming up for you later. As
Dana Kozloff reports tonight from Indianapolis, both sides continue to blame each other for the stalemate over unresolved labor issues.
The last hope to avert a nationwide Caterpillar strike occurred here in Indianapolis. But after only 35 minutes of meeting face-to-face, talks between Caterpillar and the United Auto Workers broke down for good.
And we're leaving. We're in a process of getting ready to go back to Peoria.
With that, talks between the two sides ended. After 7 hours of meeting in separate rooms, nothing was accomplished. The union says they offered to resolve 14 unfair labor practice charges instead of 92, but the company said no.
Well, I can say that we tried. We honestly tried to avert the deadline, the strike deadline for tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We were ready and willing to meet last Friday, last Saturday, last Sunday, and today Caterpillar refused. They came in today and met, and they were in here all of 40 minutes, if it was quite frankly that long. And I found out from one of the media folks, I think it was you, that while we were in here waiting for them to consider our proposal, they were outside calling you guys in and meeting with the media.
Caterpillar officials say the union refused all offers of arbitration, saying UAW officials wanted all or nothing, and nothing is what they got.
How do you justify the communities not reinstating and paying these 14 people, or how many ever it was, the back pay? It sure seems like a drop in the bucket.
Let me answer that one, Mike.
Okay.
Bob, quite frankly, that's a reprehensible question. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for asking that kind of a question. You ought to be asking that question of the union. Why do they put 14,000 people on strike rather than let these 14 issues that they've identified be tried on the merits of the case? It's because they know the merits of those cases would uphold the company's action that they don't want them tried on the merits of the case. They don't want them to go through the NLRB process. They don't want them to go through arbitration. We have offered any other ideas the union may have that would review those cases on the basis of their merits.
First of all, the company knows damn well that the arbitration can't settle these issues. The arbitrator has the authority to settle only a simple issue that's in front of him. He has no statutory authority whatsoever to say that you cannot, to remedy the problem and say that you cannot do it again.
Union officials say they were willing to stay in town and meet, but they say Caterpillar officials did not go for that. Now, the strike will occur in just 24 hours, 10 p.m. Central Time. In Indianapolis, Dana Kozloff, News 25 Nightside.
And in point of fact, it appears that the cat's strike is already taking place. There are reports of the walkout at Mapleton. We have a crew on the scene. We hope to have a live report for you in just a couple of minutes. At any rate, now the community must brace itself for a strike that could last a long time. Past strikes have had a ripple effect throughout central Illinois. As Fraser Ingerman tells us, there is not much optimism tonight that a strike will be quickly settled.
Have a second, bro.
Monday night Little League in East Peoria, in the shadow of Caterpillar. Many of these Little Leaguers are sons of Caterpillar workers. Janet Flynn's husband works at the company.
Because I think that the workers want to work, and eventually, one way or another, it's going to work out. But it could be painful before it does.
Janet Vaughn's son plays on the team. She has lots of friends who work for Caterpillar.
Right now, I'm frustrated. I don't see an answer coming, and I just wish everybody would back down and start fresh and one item at a time and do something. There's a lot of frustrated people out here that want to work.
The business community is always worried about a strike. The president of the Economic Development Council of Peoria says it's hard attracting new business when you always have an ongoing labor dispute.
We never make it to the final three, most generally if it's a company of some size, because common sense just tells them that, hey, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, Peoria area has a bad labor image.
While other companies and unions are getting along, that is lost when you mention Caterpillar and the United Auto Workers.
It is frustrating when we know what labor and management can accomplish when they work together, that this isn't happening. And, you know, besides the fallout from the Caterpillar situation has on the whole economy, which does in turn then impact our industry.
Now that the talks in Indianapolis have failed, business and labor leaders say it will be even harder to repair Peoria's tainted labor image. Fraser Engerman, News 25 Nights.
Thanks, Jim. As we said, the walkout at Caterpillar is apparently beginning not tomorrow night, but tonight, 24 hours early. Our Fraser Engerman is live at Mapleton. Fraser, what can you tell us? What's the latest?
Well, Anna, they are indeed on strike. As you can see, all of the workers of the Mapleton facility are now out of the building. They are carrying the unfair labor practice strikes. Bill Cass-Stevens said earlier tonight in Indianapolis he didn't think he would be able to contain his members until tomorrow's strike deadline. That apparently is the case now. The workers have walked out of the plant. They began walking out about an hour ago. Some of them told me they were trying to hold a union meeting. The company officials told them they could not do it on company time, so they picked up and left the building, and they are now outside the building here at Mapleton. The ULP strike has begun. You probably can expect it to spread to the other plants before the evening, at least before the evening or the morning is done with. We'll be here and bring you an update a little bit later. Back to you now.
All right, Fraser, thank you. We'll have the latest also tomorrow morning on News 25 Today.
Central Illinois News Channel, WEEK TV 25.
Up next, day one of the UAW strike, and the nationwide walkout's on the way.
News 25 at 6 with Tom McIntyre, Christine Zach, Bill Houlihan's weather, and Lee Hall with sports. Now, News 25 at 6.
And good evening, everybody. United Auto Workers Local 974 members and locals across the state jumped the strike gun.
Caterpillar workers in Central Illinois walked off the job almost a full day before the UAW's national deadline. Now company officials say they're already hiring new permanent workers. News 25's Dana Kozlov joins us from the picket lines in East Peoria with more. Dana?
Chris, these are some of the first workers to walk off their jobs, even though the national strike deadline isn't until 10 o'clock tonight. Talks between Caterpillar and the UAW failed to avert a strike, and even though workers are just 13 hours into what they're calling an unfair labor practice strike, both sides are haggling over who's working and who's not. Already there's a numbers dispute. Local 974 members jumped the strike deadline early this morning. They say all members are out or soon to be out. But Caterpillar officials say more than a fourth of first shift workers in Central Illinois reported to work.
We've got the Peoria area has over 26% of the people crossed the picket lines and returned to work on first shift today. By way of comparison, we have more people on first shift that crossed the picket lines and returned to work today than we had if you add all three shifts together at the end of the strike 2 weeks ago, or however long that was. I've lost track.
Union members say that's not the case.
I can't believe we were at 26% reporting.
Has Caterpillar ever lied to anybody before? I mean, that's easy. That's an easy question to ask any of us. We'll tell you yes, they lied.
This is just the beginning of an even larger walkout. The nationwide Caterpillar strike deadline is set for 10 p.m. Central Time tonight. Company officials say they're ready. The first step to keep production running smoothly with salaried workers on the floor. The second step,
we're simply hiring full-time regular employees, new full-time regular employees, to help fulfill our customers' needs.
But Local 974 leaders are calling even an unspoken threat of permanent replacement an empty threat.
It's another form of intimidation, another way to try to intimidate the worker into, going across his own picket line and coming back to work.
Again, the union is calling this strike an unfair labor practice strike, saying their jobs are protected by law. But only the National Labor Relations Board can actually rule it an unfair labor practice strike, and that leaves the door open for Caterpillar to take a gamble and hire permanent replacements. Now, right now, the words permanent replacements are not being used, only the words new permanent employees. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much. Dana Kozlov reporting live from East Peoria tonight. Mac?
And this all-out UAW strike is no surprise. There have been rumors and hints of it for months. And last week, the union imposed a Tuesday night deadline if the unfair labor practice disputes with Caterpillar were not settled. No progress in the talks yesterday. And as News 25's Mike Dimmick says, there's only one surprise left, and that was Central Illinois members who went on strike early.
They started walking at Mapleton last night. They kept walking into the early morning at Mossville and East Peoria. The UAW says 7,000 strong. East Peoria Grievance Chairman Harold Rose told me this morning that many union members simply found no reason to stay.
Came into work last night. There's a lot of unhappy workers. Approximately 1 o'clock, I got a page from the union hall, wanting to know how things was going in here. I told them how our guys was feeling, the way it was at, and they'd communicated with the other areas, and just more spontaneously decided at 5 o'clock we was going to get out of there.
Unlike other walkouts, this one was quiet, almost businesslike. Walking out has become almost a ritual for the past 2 years, but Rose says this ongoing dispute is wearing out union and management inside the plants.
The working conditions have just been, everybody's on edge all the time. Not just our side on management. I don't think they like it much better than we do.
In East Peoria, Mike Dimmick, News 25 at 6.
Dozens of union workers now are spending their time out on the picket line, 6 hours each week, but they say they're used to it from past strikes, and they don't necessarily see this strike as very different from any of the others.
It's just as costly for both sides, I'm sure. No. Someday a solution will come, I'm sure.
Oh, I think the mood's been pretty good. Everybody knows that we've got to do what we're doing or lose everything.
We'll tell you more about the Workers' Day on the Line tonight on Nightside.
One of the main issues behind the strike has always been the status of the fired and suspended workers. Those who've lost their jobs are finding a somewhat hostile job market filled with lots of temporary, lower-wage manufacturing jobs. News 25's Adam Nielsen reports from Pontiac tonight.
Members of UAW Local 2096 set up pickets outside the Pontiac plant at 9 this morning. On the line, union officials reminded the rank and file that if reporters ask, this strike is about unfair labor practices, nothing else. Union officials don't know how long workers will trade their $15 to $20 an hour wages on the production line for their meager earnings on the picket line.
Well, I suppose until we are able to resolve these ULP issues. I can't say how long that is, but it's looking like it'll be a while based on Caterpillar's attitude.
Alan Kagman's Cap tells the story. He was fired 14 months ago, accused of calling cat workers scabs, not at the plant, but at a bar in Roanoke, 30 miles from Pontiac. He's getting by on donations from fellow employees and on $200 a week from the union.
We've checked on some jobs. We always check on work, and there's just nothing out there to meet what we were getting before we got fired.
The State Job Service office in Pontiac was forced to quit handling Caterpillar hirings 2 years ago because of the labor unrest. Officials say even without Caterpillar, this office places about 1,000 people in jobs every year in this area. Officials say the most highly sought-after jobs are in manufacturing, which pay about $9 an hour top wage. But as you can see here, most of the jobs don't even approach that wage level. Employment Security's Nancy Aldridge says temporary manufacturing jobs don't have benefits. Full-time jobs do, but only after a probationary period. Aldridge says during strikes, her office usually sees a few strikers looking for another job.
Sometimes the families of the strikers also start looking for work at that time.
Only CAT and the UAW can determine how busy Aldridge will be in the coming days and weeks. In Pontiac, Adam Nielsen, News 25 at 6.
When News 25 continues, there's more for Roanoke and all of central Illinois.
Accused serial killer Joseph Miller passes up on a plea bargain.
We'll hear from Pekin High's former choir director, Don Valenti.
And coming up after the news, some hot statistics about our local heat wave.